You're watching Beyond the Headlines.
Well, it's that time of year again, time to prepare your taxes, or at least start getting ready to prepare your taxes. Every year, there seem to be changes to our tax codes and potential deductions, and we do our best to make sure you have all the latest information. Today, we're talking about property taxes as well as your personal and business taxes. Sharwin Wiltz-Boney is a certified public accountant, an IRS enrolled agent, real estate broker, and the CEO of Bonafide Development and Investment Group. Michael Slevens is a licensed real estate appraiser, certified tax consultant with more than 20 years of experience, and the CEO and founder of Tax Recourse. So that means you guys have all the answers. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So before we came on, I said, now we are at the very end of January, and if our viewers are like me, they are saying, you know what, I'm going to get my taxes done early this year, and so now's a good time to start. And I mean that. I am going to get them done early, but there are changes and things people should know about. Let's first start with you, Sharwin. What are some of the things that people should know first about getting ready for this tax season?
One of the things that is always important for every taxpayer is making sure that you have all of your documents, all of your income documents in hand and ready to be prepared, primarily because you don't want to be in a situation to where you're having to file an amendment because you forgot to include a W-2, or you forgot, that you pulled money from your retirement and you forgot to get the form. And so you want to make sure that you have all of your documents prepared and ready to go. There have been some changes relative to the tax code relative to recent legislation, and so the biggest thing though is making sure that you get all of your documents. The Internal Revenue Service is indeed wanting everyone to utilize their W-2s as opposed to any pay stubs. I know that that's something out there that many taxpayers will attempt to try to do, is to use their pay stubs because they're wanting to get their money fairly quickly. But IRS
wait for your W-2. That's what they want to see.
Yes, they want the W-2s, and if it's a situation to where maybe you've changed employers or jobs, one of the things that you can definitely do is contact that employer, but if not, IRS does allow you to use your pay stubs after February 15th, and so
you have to wait for that.
Right.
So, when people, Michael, are thinking about, okay, I'm trying to get all my paperwork together, we think about one of our biggest expenses is our home.
Right.
And so the whole property tax issue, home values have been decreasing. When should you, or how do you know whether you should reassess your property taxes?
And this is a perfect time to start thinking about it, because every single jurisdiction, almost in everyone around the country, uses January 1st as their date. So pretty much you're going to be responsible for the property taxes that are due on your property as of whatever your property looked like on January 1. So, I always tell clients of mine to make sure they start looking in January at damage that their property may have, just looking for items that they could use to defend an appeal or a protest that would be filed at the end of May.
So, I saw a question somewhere that said, how can your home save you money? And is that how? Is it because of your
it's a big, property taxes is a big expense for homeowners and commercial property owners. It's one of the largest expenses that they have. And many times it's either overlooked or it's not focused on enough, where they bring their property values down, and in a world where the economy is doing the things that it's doing and the tax rates in many cases are going up, the only way you possibly can focus on that number and bring it down is through an appeal.
And is that very difficult to do?
It's not. In the case of a residential homeowner, it's actually not a very difficult process, and the jurisdictions are making it easier and easier. There's even ways to do it online with an iFile now in Harris County in Houston. I think most homeowners have the ability and have the capability of going out and getting the data that they need to file a successful appeal and reduce their values.
So if you, it's something to at least consider. If you're a homeowner, look at your values and look at where it might be able to be something that saves you money. Should you hire a professional, or can you do it yourself?
For homeowner and residential, I'd highly recommend doing it yourself. There is a sympathy factor involved, especially if you go before a jurisdiction and you have all kinds of different issues with your home. No one's going to focus on your home as much as you do. If you hire an outside consultant, they're not going to have all the details that they need all the time to go before a board and to get the reduction that you feel you're entitled to. As far as commercial is concerned, it's usually best to hire a professional to go out and get all the market data that they need to defend the commercial property.
When you see, you were going to say you see people that come in and with property tax issues, I imagine.
Of course. One of the things I wanted to mention just what Michael was saying is that if you have some damage, have had some damage to your house relative to a disaster or anything like that, that is another deduction on the personal tax end that you can definitely use as a write-off. And so that's another thought, in increasing your itemized deduction amount. If you've had some damage to your home as a result of a disaster or something, you can definitely use that as a deduction.
What about if you've had a break-in? Is that considered something that you can use to deduct if you've had damage to your home because of a break-in?
The Internal Revenue Service coins that as casualty and theft deduction, and so it is a situation that you can use it as a deduction. Now, of course, your insurance often will, subsidize and pay for something, those sort of damages, but the amount that is not covered by your insurance company, you can definitely use that portion of it as a deduction.
So everything, we should look at everything as being on the table in terms of what possible deductions could be. Now, the date has changed. If you itemize, it's been pushed back, right? You have to wait till February 1st to file?
It's February 14th. What's happened is because of some recent legislation that has been enacted, taxpayers are now, those persons that normally would itemize, and those persons that would normally take advantage of the higher education credits, those persons are having to wait until February 14th to actually file their tax return. The IRS is having to readjust their system and their processing systems to be able to accommodate this new legislation that passed in December, and so those taxpayers are having to wait.
We'll take a short break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little more about your property taxes and about this new legislation, what we should all know about that. We'll be right back.
You're watching Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back. We're still talking about money. This time we're talking about taxes, property, personal, whatever. We all have to pay taxes, and this is the time of year that you should start getting all your stuff together. Some people have it together. I'm one of those people that's really working to start getting it together. Now you're just giving me another excuse I have to February 14th if you itemize, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the legislation from back in December that will affect taxpayers this year.
One of the things that I want to make sure that your viewers are very aware of is, as part of that legislation, the Social Security taxes have been lowered for the employee, and that was meant to have a stimulatory effect, put more money in the pocket of taxpayers so that they would be able to obviously spur the economy some, spend more. But one of the things that your viewers want to make note of is look at your paychecks and make sure that you see that your employer has in fact reduced what they're taking out of your check specifically for Social Security. The legislation that was passed in December reduced for 1 year, reduced Social Security taxes by 2%. And so again, the idea was for it to have a stimulatory effect, and so that's definitely more money in your pocket for spending.
Every little bit counts. One of the things in the break we talked about is that this whole process of being able to reassess your property value have really made it a lot easier.
They've really simplified the process just by logging online and I-filing on your property. When you get your hearing notice or your value notice for the beginning of the year, it shows instructions on how to be able to file a protest online and achieve results usually without even having to go down to the district and argue. Again, I think there's instances where that works great, especially if you have a good case and you feel your property value is way out of line with other properties. There's other instances if there's been severe damage to your home or there's things that are difficult to explain to the jurisdiction, going the normal route and filing a protest and actually going down and stating your case is a better way of going.
And before we go, we're almost out of time. Some final tax tips, things that may be in place this year that were not last year that they should know as they get ready.
Right. Earned income credit. In prior years, your family might not have qualified for what's considered to be earned income credit. You definitely want to make sure that you go to your preparers and see if you do in fact now qualify. The income limits for that particular credit has increased, which is a good thing. And so you definitely want to make sure that you check with your preparer about that. There are general sales tax. If you're itemizer, you definitely want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that particular deduction as far as general sales tax is concerned. And again, check with your employers to make sure that you're getting that 2% benefit, on your paychecks. So.
All right, check for the benefit. Make sure you have all your paperwork, earned income credit, and also do the I-file to check about getting your property taxes reduced. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll talk taxes again because we still have a few months before the deadline approaches. I'd like to thank all of my guests for joining me this morning and all of you for tuning in.